Hello friends, welcome to this session in the subject of information technology for the mobile computing. Our today's module is about GSM. GSM, a term very much popular and very much known to all of us. What is it? It's abbreviate for Global System for Mobile Communication. It is the first digital 2G telecommunication standard which was developed in 1992. Initially it was developed as a pan-European standard for use in Europe, but then it became popular worldwide and now it is implemented globally. The foundation of GSM lies when the cellular technologies were developed at Bell Laboratories in 1900 and in between 1900 and 70s. From now it has become very popular. The digital or the mobile subscriber base of GSM is more than 8 billion and it covers 80 to 85% of market share. The capability of GSM which makes it so popular is its international roaming. The network of the GSM is spread in more than 210 countries. So, our today's topic, let us start with the introduction to GSM, but this module and the subsequent modules we will be covering the whole principles and the architectures of GSM. In this module we will be discussing about GSM architecture. First phase, we will be continuing GSM architecture in the second module, then we will be learning about the security principles which are provided in GSM. We will learn what are handovers, how they are implemented in GSM, how roaming is facilitated, how localization takes place in GSM, and finally how calling is being done in GSM. So, let us start with the first session of GSM today. The topics which we will be discussing today are, we will just look at the introduction to GSM and the advantages of GSM. We will learn about the specifications of GSM, as in which frequencies it uses, what are the modulation techniques, what are the multiple access techniques, the data rates, the speech coding which is being used, and many more. Then we will learn about the services provided by the GSM, and then we will start with the introduction of GSM, that is we will start with the radio subsystem layer in this module, and the other two layers we will be discussing in the next module. So, to start with, let us look at the advantages of GSM network. As we said that improved spectrum efficiency, we will see when we will learn about the multiple access technique which have been used, but the fundamental way of presenting the improved spectrum efficiency is the cellular system on which the GSM is being based, which facilitates frequency reusing by repeating the frequency for the cells which are far away from each other. It provides international roaming, as I said that more than 200 countries, or to be more precise, more than 210 countries worldwide are under GSM network coverage. The mobile stations which comply with the GSM are low cost mobiles, high quality speech. Yes, the most important is its compatibility with the fixed network, that is PSTN and ISDN. We will see how and we will learn about them in the architecture, and yes, the support for new services. Let us look at GSM specifications, as in what frequencies are used. Now, there are different variants of GSM as per the frequency used. The frequencies used in GSM and the variants are listed in this table, but most popularly three variants of GSM are being used. They are GSM 900, GSM 1800 and GSM 1900. You can see that GSM 900, there are again three variants. First is PGSM, which is known as primary or standard GSM. You can see that different frequencies have been provided, UL as UL and DL. UL stands for uplink and DL stands for downlink. Now, why these different frequencies are provided? Because GSM along with data, it also provides a support of voice, and voice always require a full duplexing mode. So, in full duplexing mode, the receiver is able to hear as well as it can talk. So, there needs to be some gap between those frequencies, right. So, uplink frequency is that channel by which the mobile phone interacts with the base station, and downlink is that channel by which it hears from the base station. So, these two channels should be different from each other, and there should also be a guard band between them to avoid the interference. So, the two frequency channels for primary or standard GSM are: uplink frequencies is 890 to 915 megahertz, downlink frequency 935 to 960 megahertz. Extended GSM or EGSM, uplink 880 to 915, downlink 925 to 960. RGSM or railway GSM, uplink is 876 to 915, downlink is 921 to 960. You can observe the guard bands between the uplink and downlink channels. For GSM 1800, which is popularly known as Digital Cellular System or DCS, uplink frequency is 1710 to 1785 megahertz, whereas downlink frequencies is 1805 to 1880 megahertz. The third variant is GSM 1900, Personal Communication Services or PCS. Uplink frequencies is 850 to 1910 megahertz and downlink frequency is 930 to 990 megahertz. Now, these different variants are used in different countries. Now, the question is that when there are different variants used in different countries, they must be operating on different frequency. So, how does it support the international roaming? Because when you are carrying a handset from one country to another country which supports a different band for GSM, then how it is handled? So, actually if when you buy a phone, you can just look at some of the specifications, you will find something known as a dual band or a triple band or a quad band or multi band. What does it mean? It means that this mobile phone is capable of handling many bands. So, it might at a time it might operate on one band or two bands which have been listed, or 3 or 4 or many, and hence the international roaming is supported. That means, there will be no problem if it moves from one country to another country which supports another band. The multiple access schemes used in GSM, it uses 3 forms of multiple access: SDMA, TDMA and FDMA. SDMA, of course, because it is using a cellular system and the cellular system itself is implementing SDMA, that is whole area is divided into small cells and each cell is handled by one base station. So, dividing the space implemented as space division multiple access, and you can see in the diagram itself that the neighboring cells have been allocated different frequencies and same frequencies is being allowed to the cells which are quite far from each other, hence supporting frequency reuse. The another multiple access which is supported in GSM is actually a combination of FDMA and TDMA. So, to increase the capacity, no multiple access scheme is used alone, it is always used in conjunction with one another. Like in one cell you can have FDMA, on one frequency channel you can have TDMA. So, what are the FDMA, how it supports? There are 124 channels of 200 kilohertz each for both uplink and downlink. So, you can see that this is the for uplink and downlink, these are different channels and this is the guard band between uplink and downlink. We also need to have the guard bands between these 124 channels. So, each channel is of 100 kilohertz, but the guard band between these channel is of 100 kilohertz. Now, as I said that within FDMA, TDMA is supported. So, what is TDMA? That one frequency channel 2 is allocated to a user for a fixed amount of time. GSM supports TDMA in that it provides 8 time slots of 577 microsecond each. That is, one user will get the channel for 577 microsecond and then the channel will go to another user and to third user and so on. So, after it has gone to the 8 users, it will be returned back to the first user. So, in effect the first user will get the channel back in how much time? 577 microsecond multiplied by 8, which turns out to be for about 4 milliseconds. So, you can see that the capacity has been increased by combining FDMA and TDMA. So, in FDMA 124 channel, each channel 8 time slices. So, in effect 992 channels are being available. Duplexing, as we said that a full duplexing is required because it is supporting a voice, and a voice always require full duplexing to avoid the interference between the hearing and talking. So, GSM also supports duplexing by providing the duplexing distance, and in GSM the duplexing distance is about 80 megahertz. Now, these are some of the specifications. Oh yes, let us talk about modulation. GSM uses Gaussian mean shift keying modulation. The speech coding used is LPC or linear predictive coding. Frame duration is for 4.6 millisecond because because every user is getting the channel after 577 microsecond multiplied by 8. Duplexing is FDD and TDD, both speech channels per RF channels available are 8. So, these are some of the specifications which are followed by GSM telecommunication standard. Now, just have a look at the services which are provided by GSM. You must be wondering that why I am telling you what services which have been provided, you already know them, right, but let us have a look at them. The basic services of GSM can be divided into 3 categories: teleservices, supplementary services and bearer services. Teleservices, as the name itself indicates, deals with the telephonic services, that it provides the voice at full data rate, that is maximum data rate is 13.4 kbps. You can send a fax, you can send a SMS, it is a emergency number activation, you very well know that. It supports MMS, you can send a teletext or a video text. The supplementary services. The supplementary services, these also we are well aware of, but just look at the supplementary services which are being provided, that is user identification. You can always know that who has called you. Call forwarding, in case you do not want to take the call, you can forward it. Closed user groups formation by forming the groups of people known. Multi-party grouping for business applications. Call waiting, that is when you are talking and if somebody is trying to call you, you will find its number in call waiting. Call holding, you can put a subscriber or a caller on a hold. Call bearing, yes, a very important, why you can avoid the nuisance by putting some numbers on for call bearing. And information regarding call charge, that is when you are done with the call, you can see the charges which are incurred during this call. You are well aware of these services also. What we less know is about bearer services. What is bearer? Bearer is a set of data transmitted or received from the terminal equipment. These are responsible for transmission of data, leading to explosion in use of mobile internet access and mobile data transfer. So, GSM was a telecommunication standard which offered data along with voice, and hence it supported the internet. Voice signals are also transmitted as data. So, what is voice data? How do you convert voice into data? That is, it is obtained after digitizing, coding, encoding, appending error detection bits, error detection and correction bits, and encrypting of voice signals. Now, whatever is received after all these processes is the data which is known as voice data. We did not talk about the data rate when we are talking about the GSM specifications, because they depend on the scheme which is used for transmission. That is, what is the data rate for bearer services? The bearer services can be of 2 types: transparent or non-transparent, synchronous and asynchronous. In a transparent method, the interface uses only physical layer protocol, whereas in non-transparent the service uses physical layer, data link and flow control layer protocols. So, depending on whether transparent or non-transparent method is being used, the data rates are different. So, data rates for transparent are 2.4, 4.8 and 9.6 kilobits, whereas for non-transparent it is 300 kbps to 9.6 kbps. The bearer services can be sent in synchronous mode or in asynchronous mode. In the synchronous mode, the data is transmitted from sender to receiver at a fixed rate and a constant phase difference is maintained between the frames, whereas in asynchronous, the data is transmitted from sender to receiver at variable rates and a constant phase difference is not maintained between the consecutive frames or data burnt data rates. As I said, again the data rate will be varying according as whether synchronous mode is used or asynchronous mode is used. So, data rate for synchronous mode is 1.2, 2.4 or 4.8 kbps, whereas for asynchronous it is 300 to 9.6 kbps. Now, let us look at the GSM architecture. You can see in the diagram that 3 layers have been or 3 parts have been stated. Actually, GSM architecture is a 3-layer architecture. The 3 layers are radio subsystem layer, network subsystem layer and operation subsystem layer. Radio subsystem layer, at the name itself indicates that it deals with the radio specific entities. So, you can see in the diagram that the entities of these 3 layers are also interacting with each other, and that has to be done because otherwise then because all these layers are integrated into a single architecture. You can see that in the radio subsystem there are mobile phones, there is a base station, there is a base station controller. We will talk about these entities, their abbreviations when we will be discussing them one by one. Then you have in the NSS you are having something marked as HLR, which is known as home location register, VLR visitor location register, MSC mobile switching center, GMSC, and in the OSS you can see operation and maintenance control, OMC, EIR equipment identity register and AOC authentication center. Now, you can see that these words which are appearing somewhat unfamiliar to you right now, you will be able to learn about them in this module as well as in the next module, and we will see that how these entities integrate and combine to provide services to the GSM user. We will start with the first layer, that is radio subsystem in this module. So, as we said, GSM architecture is composed of 3 layers: radio subsystem, network subsystem and operation subsystem. To start with radio subsystem, as the name itself indicates that it deals with radio specific entities. So, the entities which are involved in radio subsystem are, of course, there is a mobile station which is the external entity and which is known to the user, which the user handles, and the other 2 entities are on the network part, which is the network handles. The other 2 entities are base transceiver system, BTS. The name is like appearing very technical to you right now, but it is simply a base station which you see in nearby to a garden. You may find it on the floor of on the topmost floor of your building or across the road while traveling on the highways. So, those equipments carrying the big antennas are nothing but the base station. So, no need to worry about this term here, base transceiver. Transceiver stand for transmitter as well as receiver, and the third entity is base station controller. Actually, this is a hierarchical structure. What does it mean? There is a mobile station. Many mobile stations are controlled by one base station. Obviously, one base station can handle many mobile stations, but these base stations, as we said that one cell is handled by one base station. So, there can be many cells in a particular area and every cell will be having a base station. So, what is done is that above this hierarchy is another component which is known as base station controller or the BSC. You can see in the diagram also is that there is one BSC, then one BSC is handling many base stations and one base station is handling many mobile stations. So, you can see in this diagram also that there are cells, these cells are handled by base stations and you can see that this is one BSC which is controlling many base stations. This BSC is controlling these base stations. Now, look at these entities one by one and see the functions of them. Let us look at mobile station. You must be wondering that what I am telling you, but in GSM terminology, mobile station means any device which is accessing the services of GSM and which is connected to the GSM network. It can be a mobile phone, it can be a PDA, it can be a laptop, any other thing. So, the word mobile station is being used and it consists of necessary network and software to transmit and receive GSM data. Now, what does it contain? You know that it consists of a terminal which antennas and some microcontrollers installed on it, and the most important part of the mobile station, that is the heart of the mobile station through which it connects to the GSM network, is the SIM card. Without SIM card, now it is not a mobile station, it is just a electronic equipment. As we said that we discussed in the advantages of GSM also that the GSM mobile stations are low power, they are low power, they require low power and they are less expensive also. So, the power requirement for general mobile stations is 2 watt, but for GSM 1800 it is only 1 watt, because in GSM 1800 the cell sizes are small, and when the cell sizes are small we require less power on the mobile station, because less power would be required to send the signal to the base station. Identifier which is recognized by GSM and which is associated with the device is IMEI number, which stands for International Mobile Equipment Identity. What is this? It is a 15-digit number and it is very useful to find your mobile phone when it is stolen. With the help of IMEI number you can track your mobile phone. But how to know what is the IMEI number of your mobile phone? Just do a simple exercise here. Just dial *#06# from your mobile station. You can also find it in hard form behind the battery. So, if you look at the battery, behind it on a small level the IMEI number is being printed, but you can also retrieve it by just doing this simple exercise. Type *#06# from the mobile station. The IMEI number will appear, take the screenshot and mail to you. So, anytime unfortunately if your mobile phone is stolen, you can track it with the help of this IMEI number. The heart of the mobile station, that is the SIM, subscriber identity module, contains anything and everything to provide the services to the user. It acts as the identity of the user to the GSM network. Now, what does it contain? The information stored in GSM is the serial number of the card, type and the list of subscribed services. It importantly contained a very significant identifier associated with GSM. So, every SIM card is associated with the IMSI number. Now, that IMSI number is not known to you, it is known only to the network. You can say that you must be wondering that is IMSI number is the one by which you are being called upon? No, it is MSISDN number. IMSI number, which stand for International Mobile Subscriber Identity, and the format is uniform, which is followed throughout the world. This number is the number by which the GSM network identifies the GSM subscriber. The format of IMSI number is, it is a 15-digit number and it does not it does not change when the user moves from one country to another country. It constitutes of 3 parts: MCC, that is mobile country code, for India it is 404, MNC, mobile network code, it is 10 for Delhi in for Airtel in Delhi, and MSIN, mobile subscriber identification number. Now, this IMSI number is also used it acts as a primary key to all the database associated with the user subscriber, right, and it is used for many other purposes like generation of the cipher key, identification of the location area, allocating the TMSI number, that is to hide the, we will learn what is TMSI number when GSM security is discussed, to hide the identity of the user throughout the number. It is the IMSI number does not flows throughout the network, instead TMSI number is being used. Then the other information which is stored or which is associated with the SIM card is the PIN, that is personal identification number. It is used to lock and unlock the mobile station. So, if wrong PIN has been entered, the mobile phone is locked, and then PIN unblocking key is used, is provided, it is provided by the service provider by which the mobile phone can be unlocked, and if this key is also pressed for more than 10 times, the SIM card becomes useless. It consists of a 128-bit encryption key. This encryption key is used for security purpose during authentication and encryption, and the dynamic key, it also contains a dynamic key, cipher key, which is generated when the user wants to access the service of the network. We will discuss about these keys in detail when we will learn about GSM security mechanisms. Or the base transceiver system, it comprises of all the radio equipments like antenna, signal processing elements and the amplifiers necessary for radio transmission. The mobile station connects to the BTS via full duplex channel, we have already seen. It manages a cell. What is the function? It manages a cell or number of cells depending on whether the antenna is omnidirectional or sectorized. So, if the antenna is omnidirectional, only one cell would be handled, but to further increase the capacity, what is done is that the cell is logically divided into more than one part, preferably 3 parts, by forming the sectors on those particular antenna. That means, the antenna will function in 3 modes at 120 degree each, and such type of antenna are known as sectorized antenna. The function of the base transceiver system, let us have a quick look at them. As we said, formation of cells. The power of the base station will decide that what is the range or what is the area covered by that particular cell. If the power of the base station is less, the area covered would be less. If it is more, the transmission can go up to large distance, and hence the area of cell would also be large. Signal processing and amplification of signals. Yes, this is required because every base station detects that the signal which it is getting is up to a threshold level, otherwise it would be detected as a noise. If it is not so, different signal processing functions are being performed at the base station to bring it up to a particular discernible level. Encoding and decoding for converting voice into data and vice versa. It performs encryption and decryption. The unfortunate thing is that GSM does not provide end-to-end encryption. That is, the encryption is only between the mobile phone and the base station and vice versa. So, this encryption decryption function is performed by the base station. paging to trace the mobile stations. This we will see when we will learn how a call is being made, but just a quick look at how to localize a mobile phone. So, once it is found that the mobile phone is in this particular base station area, what the base station does is that it pages the number of the mobile station over all the downlinks. That is, the mobile phone number is broadcasted over the downlinks. What are the mobile phone doing is that they are constantly observing any information on the uplink. So, if any mobile station finds its own mobile number on the downlink, it responds by ringing, and this is how a mobile phone is being traced. So, the paging is being done to broadcast the number of the mobile station. It performs frequency hopping to avoid the interference, so that the various mobile station can operate simultaneously. Data rate adaptation, as we said that in case of synchronous data transmission, the transmission is it's on different rate. So, the synchronization is necessary. So, this adaptation is being done by the base stations. So, we have seen the functions of two entities of radio subsystem till now, mobile station and base station. Now, let us move to the base station controller. As we said that it controls more than one base stations which are under its area. The functions of base station controller are radio channel setup, that it sets up the channel over which the mobile station would be talking, signal processing, of course, to improve the quality of the base station. It reserves frequencies for communication and allocates them to the mobile station whenever required. Yes, the important function, it manages handovers among different base stations. What does it mean? We said that BSC is at a one hierarchical level above than the base station. So, right. So, when the mobile phone moves from one base station area to another base station area, it will lose the contact with the old base station because it is moving far from it. So, it will no longer now get the signals from the old base station. So, it now needs to get connected to the new base station, and this situation is known as handovers. Now, handover, if it is from one base station area to another base station area that falls under one BSC, that handover is handled by that particular BSC. We will learn about this in more detail when we will discuss GSM handover in the subsequent module. It performs frequency hopping, then it measures the use of frequency channel spectrum for traffic control. That is, if a channel is being occupied more or more traffic is there, then some of the traffic is diverted to another channels which are free, which is known as load balancing. Performs encryption and decryption and performs the function of updation of location registry. So, we are just done with the function of radio subsystem. In the next module, we will be discussing another two subsystems, network subsystem and operation subsystem. So, to conclude with, in this module, we started with our introduction to GSM, that is the global system for communication, and we saw that it is a very popular 2G telecommunication standard having a very strong subscriber database and a very high market share, about 80 to 85% share. It has the capability of providing international roaming. So, in this module we discussed some of the specifications of GSM, as in what are the frequencies used, multiple access techniques used, modulation technique, encoding scheme and many more. We learnt about the services provided by the GSM, that is GSM provides the services under three heads, teleservices, bearer services and supplementary services. And then we started off with the GSM architecture, saying that the GSM architecture is divided into three layers. radio subsystem, network subsystem and operation subsystem. We started with these 3 layers, that is we took first layer radio subsystem. In this module we discussed the basic entities which are involved in radio subsystem. It is mobile station, base station and base station controller. We saw the function of these entities and the identifiers associated with these entities. So, in this module we are done with radio subsystem. In the next subsequent modules to GSM, we will learn about the network subsystem layer and the operation subsystem layer, GSM security mechanism. We will learn about the handovers, how they are implemented in GSM and how calling and roaming takes place in GSM. So, for time being, a very good bye and keep reading. Thank you very much.